normally where you click on Mixer, you click on YouTube, and then it
Oh,
syncs the chat that way.
gotcha. All right. Well, we're live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. I hope everybody can hear us. Um, we're doing it from a different angle, different. From no longer. I always use Hangouts, but now I'm using something else, and so I'm hopefully that everybody can hear us clearly. I'm pretty sure that people will let us know in the chat. But welcome to the so who's the dev? What's up, Verge? What's up, Verge? The dev is Don. The Don is a developer, so he's a game developer, and so that's who the dev. And of course, I'm the gamer. So, welcome to episode 18. I know that we kind of we far in between. The last one we did was about a couple of months ago, but it's always about scheduling. And whenever we have the time to want to do this, then we do, and it usually just comes random because then we'll be talking about something. The next thing you know, hey, let's go ahead and do the dev and the gamer. So, all right, what's going on, everybody? What's happening? Um, Good to see, good to hear. And then we also got a guest. So starting off in 2020, we got our first guest of 2020 on Dev and the Gamer. You know what I'm saying? So none other than our man Live Wires Gaming. And what's going on with you, bro? What's happening?
Not much. I just snuck in the party like I normally do.
Yes, 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 yes. No doubt about it. So if people are not familiar with the Dev and the Gamer, is basically kind of like the second version of GRG. That's why some people ask, like, you got Don into the list of names, but Don usually don't come on that much. It's because of scheduling. Just kind of like with the next podcast, he can't come on next all the time, and he can't come on GRG all the time. So we decided to make this show, and because it's the extra extension of GRG. So anyway, without further ado, man, glad to have you back on, man. We doing the damn thing. So what's going on with you, Don? How was your holidays? What's going on with you, man?
Man, holiday's good. I think we can call this two gamers and a dev now with Livewire here, right?
All right, yeah, 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 yeah. That's something that we've been talked about too. Is that every once in a while we go ahead and bring in somebody else to make it a party of three, and instead of just me and you. But yeah, no other. It's gonna be a really good show, man. It's gonna be great. We got some fantastic topics. I mean, definitely different topics to talk about. So it's one of those things where everybody hears about the same things over and over again. And yeah, we'll definitely get into the conversation about the hardware situation with going on with the Series X from that information. But other things that normally that you haven't heard and stuff, and get it from a perspective from not only from gamers but from somebody who's in the development business, and then just pick his brain, what I'm saying, and just listen to what people in the chat have to say, and just go in from there. So without further ado, man, let's get straight to it. Let's without wasting any more time, because I do have to do another show here a little bit later, which is the next podcast. Big shout out to my brother.
Your chat is almost perfect. You just need to scoot it down.
Ah, okay, so it is working.
It's
Cool.
working, my man. It is working.
So I must have did it right. All right, hold on. Let
Yeah,
me go here and then.
you just need to shift that. You unlock it, just shift it downward. You can overlay on the controller.
All right.
Just being cut off by the gamer portion.
Okay, hold on. That part.
I
Okay.
may have just screwed up the whole entire show.
You did because I'm
Middle of the show.
middle of the show. Okay.
This is
Hold on, let me
so
let me
wrong.
do this. Yep, you shouldn't have told me. So now I'm gonna mess with it a little bit. All right, hold on, let me
Keep
see.
going down, get down. All right, just above the D-pad on the Xbox controller.
Just over the D-pad.
Yeah, yeah. Scoot it down to down, down.
Is it right here?
I just no scroll it down, move it down.
All right, it's moving down. There's a delay, so you got to watch out. So
Yeah, I see you scaling it. That's all.
okay. Oh yeah, yeah. Let me put it right here and then see if that works for you.
Yeah, just keep hitting the D-pad. I mean the down arrow key until the lettering hits the D-pad there. Perfect.
Oh, until the lettering hits the D-pad. Oh, so you're talking about right
Yeah.
here. All
Scroll
right.
down, not up.
Okay. All right. Got it.
Not
All right. So
not the shoulder button, the D-pad.
all right, we're gonna have to do that some other time. Cause like I said, it's got a delay.
Now it's now become part of the show.
All right, it is part of the show. You know what I'm saying? And you letting K Mega work with this type of stuff, this new technology, and hey, you know what? I have improved. I got to say, I have improved.
You're impressing me.
Yeah, so I'm doing this stuff live on
I was a
air,
little
baby.
bit worried before we started the show, but you're solid now.
Hey, oh man, kudos, man. I've learned from a great teacher, man, from great teachers, because man, Xbot helped me out, and of course you've helped me out. 108 helped me out. So I'm learning. I'm learning this
I know
progress. But
our powers combined, right?
yes, our powers combined form Voltron. Man, big shout out to CJ Miller, man. Thank you very much. He says don't send anyone too much money via super chat. However, GRG makes third shift fly. Good, man. Thank you very much, man. That's good to hear, man. And that is also another thing I hear a lot from a lot of people because um, that was the one thing that I was concerned about when I moved it from the regular time that we did GRG when we first started was like from when Mooch and them left and there was just that slot left and so I took it over and or I think there was other podcasts that was coming on at that time, but I took that time slot. And then when Mooch coming back, he hit me up and he said, "Hey, we've got to do Crossfire. Is it all right if we, get that time slot back?" And so I'm like, "Yeah, man, it's no big deal." So I thought it was the probably smarter decision for me to move it down to 8:30 because of the fact, or 8:30 Central Time because of my work schedule, especially during the summer. And then on top of that, it's kind of like, we could be the late night Friday night podcast where we're just loud and wild and exciting, and just have a lot of fun. And man, it's been working for us. I hear a lot of that where people saying that they enjoy it.
I prefer Feral. Oh man, Live's already messing with his mic.
Oh yeah, here we
Wait,
go.
what did I do?
You was messing with your mic. So, but yeah,
Live wires here.
yes, Livewire is here. But yeah. Anyway, but that's cool to hear, man. Thank you, CJ. We really appreciate it, man. So, every bit of support is definitely it's not only needed, but it's definitely it makes us happy, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Man,
So
and all that stuff kind of goes back into what we're gonna be doing here. I mean, for everybody, I think with their channels and stuff like that. I'm trying to get Mega to do more, and he's already tackling more behind the scenes. I just realized, and
mhm.
I'm doing more with everything that I'm doing. So all that stuff is gonna go towards E3. So it really does go a long ways to help these guys out. So.
It definitely does. It definitely does. So, all right, man. Let's get to it. Let's get to the very first topic, and that is CES. That was something that we talked about first on GRG, but didn't get your thoughts on it. And since Livewire is our guest, and then maybe for the people that didn't listen to us on GRG last night, what was the first thing that impressed you at CES, and what was the things that you didn't like so much?
Well, what impressed me was definitely not what 100 was talking about yesterday.
No, no, not
But
at all.
I would say the Alienware, I guess mini PC or portable PC. That was probably the coolest thing I saw. Um, I know that Sony showed a car, but I didn't really pay that much attention to it because I don't even know what the feature sets of it. I just know that they introduced a car. Why I do not know, but
It's a partnership thing. They have partnerships with doing sensors and stuff like that for self-driving and all that sort of stuff.
oh, okay.
So
So
so,
there's a proto.
so they're
So it's not necessarily a car. It's just a prototype that they're building, and somebody might take pieces of what their
yeah,
overall
it's
ideas
showing
are.
off key technology
Right.
for
Yeah.
the vehicle.
Yeah.
So that's
Because
what
Gotcha,
it is.
gotcha.
because it was built from the ground up by the people who from Sony themselves,
Yeah.
or was it from another company? Yeah, and then but they wanted to show that it was an absolute smart car. Like that, I think a lot of people misinterpreted that it was going to be it was Sony that was going to get into the car business, but in actuality, it was all about being. It was being like a smart car and using all of Sony's technology. So, but
Oh,
go
okay.
ahead. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, uh, that was pretty much the Alienware was the biggest thing, other than like the 8K TVs, like those, like the stuff I'm seeing, like they had what's it called, Nano LED and all this other kind of shit that sounds like it was like 10 grand and up. I'm like, bro, I'm like,
Mm,
it looks lovely, And even when I hear about the whole PlayStation and Xbox stuff with the 8K, and obviously you're seeing the 8Ks being a thing at CES more and more, I'm still like, man, this is to me. It still feels like it's like at minimum four. I mean, maximum 4 years away, man. Like, like it's close, but it ain't that close.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't. Yeah. AK is a long ways off. I mean, we can't even afford 8K televisions right now. So, it's not even not even in the thought process for me. I mean, that's the reason why I future-proof my 4K television so I can make sure I can have it for some years before I even would consider 8K. What about you, Don?
It's weird because at CES, I think it's got more and more of kind of a stick measuring contest of stealing headlines
Hmm.
versus older technologies. So a lot of times you're seeing like Halo products, right? The top of what they're producing. Um, just kind of the show off to see who's got the best tech. And it was hard to see anything that was relevant to things I was interested in. You know what I mean? So like for me, I have a bad television habit. I'm just gonna admit it right now. Like it's not healthy. I like to buy TVs. I don't need them. And so for me, I'm all about that high end, like 50 inch, 55-inch television. That's what I play on. And I'm really kind of thinking the scale of my screens because I'm doing streaming a lot more, right? So I'm trying to get the perfect kind of layout with chat and my, still have an optimized gaming experience. And then everything I saw, I mean, that's cool stuff, but like I ain't putting no 75-inch or 285-inch television in my room. It's just not happening. It's in, you know, if I really wanted it, I'm sure I could save many years and purchase such a thing. But it's not what I want to play on, right? So a lot of it is, it was a lot of technology that wasn't very applicable. The stuff that was applicable to me, that stuff I found more interesting. A lot of the newer HDR standards, instead of televisions kind of forcing what you're seeing a lot in TVs is before it was a lot of the TV kind of forcing what it thinks it should be. So it's TVs used to dictate the refresh rate, dictate TVs are dictating the HDR, color gambit, and all that sort of stuff, right? And now you're seeing the opposite. You're seeing variable refresh rate, which is the console or your PC dictating when the frame is going to refresh, right? So it creates a smoother experience that way. Um, you can do a lot more other things with that sort of stuff. I'm sure you guys are going to see that going into next generation. And you're also seeing HDR standards are kind of more of a one-to-one match with the console because the console's pushing, or console or PC. I have to clear on there. Anything that has interactive that's HDR is going to be able to push that forward to the television. Certain technologies that are coming out. So I was really impressed with Vizio and how much better they've gotten. To be honest with you, and those are the things that kind of caught my eye. Everything else was kind of just, like even the Dell like little home console thing. We're not gonna get that. That's vaporware, right? Like that's kind of a proof of concept that may never market.
You're talking about the handheld, right?
Yeah, and they
Okay.
even openly admitted it. So like,
Way
unless
to crush my dreams,
let,
Don. Way to
unless
crush
things
'em.
change. Well, that's the thing though with Halo products. It's something you're seeing way into the future, and you're seeing it kind of reeled back. And I also like how like a lot of the OLEDs, and I'm not a big OLED fan, but
Mhm.
the fact one of the Achilles heels of an OLED is the peak brightnesses are kind of low, and that's being improved across the board. I'm noticing too as well. So you're seeing what the LCDs where they're lacking, and you're seeing where OLEDs are lacking, and you're seeing those kind of converge to the same thing.
Mm.
Far as and that's a good thing, right? Like if you prefer OLED, I understand why. I prefer QLED series as of currently right now. And that's the other thing. I know Samsung has newer televisions, but I didn't get to see them at CES. I got to see the ones that I won't buy.
Yeah,
So
they did show like they showed the Samsung they showed like this really cool Samsung, like it looked like a picture frame with all these televisions put together.
Yeah, the
Uh,
modular. Yeah,
y-
that stuff is not really
Uh,
viable
yeah,
yet.
yeah.
Yeah, it will be down the road, and whoever spends the money on the high end so that technology trickles down, I think it's gonna be great. But we're a ways off from that being a true consumer product. I mean, you can buy it if you have the cash, but it's not really like gonna be a practical thing for quite a while for gamers and stuff like that. So not
Okay.
yet, at least. I mean, it's
All right.
going to be, but not yet right now.
So what is it that so what did you see that you weren't a big fan of at all?
Just a lot of the Halo products. Like I just wasn't a fan of the big Halo products that are out there. Where hey, here's this cool thing that you'll never buy. And that's kind of disappointing to me. It's supposed to be the Consumer Electronics Show, right? And there's a lot of like the enterprise sector showing off their stuff. So that was the only thing in regards to that. So I mean,
Yeah.
nothing really negative. It's just unrelatable products. I guess is the biggest thing that I kind of pull from it. So
All right. Cool. For me, there was quite a few things that I thought that was fascinating. The most fascinating thing was the two most fascinating things was that the Avatar car, that was a concept that the car's like other people have said it's not going to
the
be on the road.
Mercedes,
Yeah, the Mercedes, that thing was incredible, and like when they drove it with their hands on the where the stick shift should be, it just it was that was just crazy. It looked amazing. But then another thing was from Hyundai. It wasn't they wasn't showing cars, but they were showing like this kind of this small like city type thing that it's kind of like a hub, and it was called S Link. And what it was that it they had like these futuristic looking vehicles. They almost looked like uh driveless trolleys, but each.
hey Mega, there's a little bit of an echo. You may want to. I think your TV's on. Just turn the sound.
Oh no, no, my TV's not on. Hold on, let me see. Let me check something here.
I originally thought the echo was coming from live, but it's coming.
It's coming from me. Hold on for
yeah,
a second.
yeah. I have my TV's muted.
Yeah, it's not coming from my TV, but let's see. Maybe I need to turn this part down. Let's see.
Or turn your headphones down. Maybe your headphones are too loud.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Is that better?
Yeah, it seems like it.
Okay. All right. Cool.
I just know you don't want to go the whole entire show like.
No, 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 no. I'm glad. And usually somebody in the chat will let me know. Hey, there's an echo or whatever. But anyway,
Yeah, my bad ears are getting more
well,
sensitive.
yeah. Trust me. Like I'm always nagging about something with somebody. So trust me, I already know. But yeah, but that city was like I said, like a hub, and it was connected with like these crazy looking helicopter planes, and they would fly low ends, and they would all be connected to one of these hubs, and they would transport people from places here. Basically, what it was trying to do was alleviate people from buying cars, and they would like be transported through these different places. And so like people could have these little trolley looking futuristic vehicles. They can be like emergency vehicles for go picking up people that's sick, and if they don't have enough time to have an ambulance, that these places would be right these little vehicles would be right there in certain neighborhoods to where people could uh, jump in there, and they'd be taken to this hub place where there'll be doctors there. And it was kind of like the futuristic mall. And because there would be like people having like food trucks, and it would expand or it would shrink. It was really amazing. I'm kind of like, wow, they were trying to present this into, of course, for bigger cities. But uh, some of the people that on the panel was suggesting that like smaller areas, smaller towns, that maybe there's a lot of people leaving, that maybe they might want to try to invest into that. And then the bigger cities can see this, and then maybe look at this as an opportunity for them to want to invest into it. I mean, it looked like it would cost a lot of money, but it was really cool. And then, of course, the TVs. The what Another thing that was crazy to me was this first class airlines thing where they had nothing but TV panels on the side. So like you didn't have the window to look outside. you look through the TV, and I mean, you had all
Oh
these
yeah, I
TV
think I saw
screens.
that.
Yeah, and
It was
like you
like
could.
super first class though.
Yeah, it was ultra first class. Like I don't
So
wouldn't think.
what it would do? Just give like a almost like the wall that wasn't there sort of effect. Like
Yeah, it almost
basically.
makes you. Yeah, it almost makes you feel like you weren't flying. You were just sitting in like your front room, and it was just, uh, And then like I guess maybe it had a little panel to where you control, but I don't think that it would show you anything from outside. But it
Oh
had
man,
this.
that's the best part of flying is looking outside.
I don't know, man. It was pretty awesome, and then it also had like a 40 some inch television that you could watch, and it would curve itself,
You know
and
what would be cool is just a
mm,
giant strip where the windows were, like have the screens along there, and then have it just have like a totally seamless view of the outside. It looks like two halves of the plane are missing, and you're just
oh wow,
flying over. That would be awesome, but no,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, I gotcha.
yeah. No, but it was
I'm
really.
sure that would freak a couple people out.
It would,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
definitely would. But it was pretty damn cool. And then uh, my old lady was looking at smart kitchen appliances, smart refrigerators, smart
I gotcha.
stove, stuff like that. But yeah, my least favorite thing, I guess I would say, was the little toilet paper roller thing, and that thing was kind of useless. I don't even understand it because I mean, if
Toilet paper roller thing. Maybe I missed that
it
one.
was a little robot that like let's say that you didn't have toilet paper and you needed to get toilet paper, but you could control this little mechanical thing that could have some toilet paper on it, and it could roll to you and you could grab the roll. But normally people have their bathroom door closed when they're using the bathroom, especially when they're doing the number two. So it kind of defeated the purpose. You know what I'm saying? It seemed like it was more for maybe somebody who was single or people that was just wide open like that. I don't know. That thing to me was.
Man, listen, man. All you need to do is be a normal human being and keep your pants at your ankles and walk your behind to the linen closet to go get some toilet paper.
Yes, I,
Man,
I agree.
you should always have just spares at all times. It's not a
Yeah, you
problem.
should. I mean, technically, yes, you should
That's like a
have an
technology
extra
chasing a
in the
problem that
bathroom.
doesn't exist.
But for
Yeah.
those that don't have a cabinet that holds up their sink, I mean, there's some people that do, some people don't. Some people keep it on the windowsill, that extra roll. It depends. But man, just walk your mind over there. I mean, look, it's your house, whatever. You just tell people, hey, I ain't got no toilet tissue. You either come and you either give it to me, or y'all gonna get a show y'all ain't want.
So
My
yeah.
butt stink. So it is what it is.
Yeah, that's crazy. So other than that, and there was another thing there was one more thing that I thought that was really odd. I didn't particularly care for, and that was there was this it was creepy. I called it. I posted it on Twitter. I called it Nintendo's new Geromite. It was just creepy to me because it was this big robot that had this face, and it had and it smiled at you the whole time, but it would walk to you. They showed it last year, and last year it didn't have no arms, but it would walk up to you, but they gave it arms now this year, and it walked to you, and it opened a bottle of soda, and it poured it, and it just had this crazy creepy smile the whole time, and I don't know, that thing was like no, that they're
And,
going too
it's
far.
trying to be friendly, but it.
Yeah,
I
like,
gotcha. I
yeah, yeah,
gotcha.
yeah, yeah. So that was those are the things that I was kind of like, that was it. But other than that, I mean, I enjoyed CES. I thought it was, I always like looking at different tech, and especially like you guys, I like looking at televisions and seeing what was coming up. And I was impressed with what OLED was providing in the sense of the windows sliding down, stuff like the TV sliding down and stuff like that. But these are things that we ain't going to be able to see for a long time, or it's not in my budget range. I don't know what kind of money y'all guys got, but I don't see me buying a TV that's anywhere from close to a hundred
I'm
thousand
sure. I'm
dollars.
sure it'll be fine if I didn't buy TVs every year. See, I got a problem.
Yeah, you do got a
Yeah, that's
problem.
not gonna happen in my house.
Yeah, no, that's not
Yeah.
gonna happen either. So anyway, all right, man. So let's get to the next topic, man. Well, let's talk about the about streaming. And
Okay.
Don, you and me have just now kind of dipped our toes in the streaming, and it's the impact of it. We both have been floored by the fact of just like people just standing there just watching us play. Like I have a scenario where I've been playing Forza Horizon 2 here for a while because I'm almost done beating it, and I just want, I kind of look at it like I'm not going to get a lot of traffic, but there was a particular, well, this for the last times I've been playing it and playing the game on Mixer, I've been seeing people that just stay there the whole time. Like the last time I played for 3.5 hours, and those particular people never left. Now they didn't say anything in the chat or anything like that, but they never left. And I myself thought
They're
that's a bit.
astonished.
Yeah, well, I just think it's more of the thing is that there's
They're
just
like,
people
I
out
thought
there.
this guy didn't play games.
No,
This doesn't make any sense to me.
no, that's another point that I think me and Don is trying to make here is that it's kind of like it's astonishing that you have people that want to watch you play games like that, but it also is crazy because there are people out there that are entertained by those games. Normally when you like I show a clip on Twitter or something like that, there's always somebody that's got something negative to say. Like there might be some people, most people that'll say, "Oh man, I remember that game. That game was great. Oh, that game is cool." But there's always those group of people that always want to troll and say, "This game is trash. This game is bad." You don't get that so much. I mean, especially for smaller streamers, it seemed like the people enjoy just watching the games that you play. What did you think about it, Don? Like, I mean, what's your
Well,
thoughts about the impact of
but my
streaming so
my
far?
yeah, my view is more and more like obviously I've taken a little bit of break from obviously being on podcasts as much and
Right.
along those lines, and it what I've realized is the world's not it's not what you think it is from podcasting and gaming. It's like it's such a small bubble of people, and look, they have their views and their opinions and their customers as well. I don't want to diminish that, right? But there's another group of customers that just simply don't think the way they do. They just don't care in the same way that everyone else thinks that everyone cares. And realistically, there's people that just want a game and they don't give a crap about all the bull crap, right? Like they just don't care. And they just want to see if it's a game they're interested in. And when people keep saying, "Hey, something's," they use the word trash, right? And you see other people are actually genuinely interested in see what the game is all about, and they're looking for information. They're looking for uh, objective information out there, not looking for your ego. They're looking for a product, a game. And I think that's very contrasting out there, and I think honestly it's a very positive thing. I mean, I can't tell you how many people like our biggest streams are the games that get criticized the most. It's Sea of Thieves, it's the last Ghost Recon, it's the games that are really really popular in our streams that I notice are the ones that everyone's talking trash about, trying to boast their own ego up, and next thing you know, those are the people that people just want an honest view on the product, and so that's what I see. I don't know if that's what you see, Mega. I don't know
Mhm.
how much streaming live does, but it's definitely a contrast from what's out there. So
Yeah, no, and that's something that I just I understand it now. Like to be honest with you, if I could make this a profession, I would. I really enjoy streaming. I didn't think that I would because I thought it was kind of weird to just do it because I'm more old school and I'm just kind of like I just don't see the benefit of it. Like having people watch you play, but when people interact with you and then like especially when you make mistakes, when people say, "Oh man, you'll get this done," or like, "Yeah, I remember I messed up at the same part, the same level, or whatever." It's a breath of fresh air for the most part. Of course, you still the bigger that we'll get, the more people that will watch. There's always going to be trolls and people that wants to just
yeah, the
sabotage stuff.
negatives, the
Yeah, there's
negatives are
always going to be something. But the thing of it is that it's still in it to me feel like in its pure form, especially when you're a smaller streamer, because the people that do watch you, they enjoy that game just like you do, and it just kind of brings back that feel of what it used to be like when we used to watch gaming channels that would give us gaming information, and it wouldn't be so objective. It would just be they would give you something that would be positive, and they would give you the pros and cons, but it didn't seem like they were trying to destroy the one product that they may not have liked, because you just didn't get that from them. And I don't know, man. It's a good vibe, man. I dig it. I dig it a lot. What about you, Live? I mean, do you stream at all?
From time to time. I don't do it often. I don't do it often. Why don't I do it often? That's a good question. Mostly because I just don't like the box that pops up because it's I'm trying to get into it, and then I feel like sometimes
You talking about the
um
integration portion of like Xbox because it has that little blue box on the left-hand corner or wherever you put it?
yeah,
Gotcha.
and then the other thing I feel like I feel more uptight when I stream versus like because I'm trying to be more conscious that people are trying to watch me do something versus like I'll play and I'll put it down, go get a bag of chips, and then you know what I mean. Like I try not to do all that extra stuff when I'm streaming.
Yeah, and I can totally agree with that, because you want to perform at your best, and it seems like when I stream, I perform at my worst. Like if I'm playing by myself without being watched, there's times I'm like, no, well, I couldn't do that when I was streaming. But that's just, I guess it's just all about getting that comfortable vibe, and then the more that people see that the more that people see that you can accomplish some good things. I think that just being more relaxed and calm, that'll just come with time. But I think that I definitely can understand the impact of it, and I see that that it's fun. It's cool. Do anybody else want to touch on anything else with the streaming situation?
No, I think
Nah.
I think you nailed it. I think it's an eye opener. I would recommend people that are think they're hot stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Try streaming for a bit. See how hot you really are. You don't get those views, and then what happens? It's a good type of humbling where it, it it's a different audience that comes to see your stuff, um, and they're there to be entertained for the fun factor of gaming. It is the most purest form of interact with a public gaming that I've out there. And the beauty is, me and Megan are not huge, right? So like in that world, and so yeah, we just get fun, get to have fun with you guys. So I don't know. It's just one of those things. I recommend everyone do it. At least do it till you get like two or three people at least watching, and just look at the difference. Look at the difference out there comparison to a lot of podcasts that thrive on the negative people, right? You know, get viewers on that. It's just much different. You have to be more real. You have to be more yourself, and it's about pureness of the game. So I don't know. I really enjoy it from those perspectives. It's different. When I stopped doing podcasts as much, I wanted to make sure I did something different, and I just kind of stumbled across it. And I do recommend other people to check it out.
yeah. No doubt, no doubt. All right. So let's get in talking about the console strategy, their reveal strategy. I know that you wanted to really touch on this, Don. So I'm going to let you go first on this. What do you think that both companies, and even if you want to include Nintendo, and what do you think that their goals, their strategy, what will they, you think that they'll might show to the fan base, or what could be their ultimate ambition to what to is it going to be services? Will it be games? Just give it all to us. What do you think the strategy what will happen with these reveals that's coming up?
Well, I think the first thing, and this goes, I think, both for Xbox and PlayStation, if I was able to kind of have their ear for a bit,
Hmm.
you have to do something, I think, before GDC. And the reason why I say that is kind of get to control the narrative a little bit about what you worked on and what's out there, if that makes any sense. And you get to put that a little bit into the public's eye. Problem is when you deal with GDC is you get a mixed bag of developers, right? Not all developers agree with one another, and when you do get that, you get you know developers have favoritisms on what consoles they like too, what they like to work on, and all that sort of stuff. And I think what happens is if you don't address that, you try to get ahead of that. you're going to get mixed messaging on your console, and this goes for both PlayStation and goes for both Xbox, in regards to that. And so then you get the internal arguments, the general populace of gamers that are super passionate, taking that stuff out of context. So for me, the first thing is you have to get out before GDC with certain key features or certain elements of your box, and that way you kind of control the narrative of how something is presented along those lines and go forward from there. I also think that um, I would prefer both console manufacturers to leave the E3 for the games. Make that about the games, and we can't just show hardware without any games. But you get where I'm going with that. I think you have to let E3 still be free to some degree, um, regardless of what timing you decide to show stuff. And I really want them to also focus on features that are different from from one generation from the other, right? Like, what are we going to be getting more than just, prettier graphics? Because I'm a graphics guy. I look forward to that. I look forward to your guys' reaction, what these developers are going to be able to do with additional horsepower. But the same token, like, what quality of life things become better with it, and they don't really necessarily scale as a huge amount, I think, for consumers.
Hmm.
But they are things that get excited about because I don't think it's just about one game. It's really about where does your library go? It's what ecosystem for to interact with. It's about exclusives as well. It's about all those things, right? It's not. I think everyone likes to make an argument and boil it down to just one thing. And I think it's really a collaboration of all those things. And so I want to see like that message to be very clear to consumers, what the products are out there, and then what it allows gamers to do is it does like a nice hard reset on how they approach what console they're going to buy. I mean, I heard so many people tell me exactly what console they're going to buy, and nothing's been shown to them. they have no
Right. Yeah.
idea.
No.
They have no idea what they're going to get. And I understand from a favoritism standpoint, like I get that. Like I'm not going to debate that. I think if you look at it from that perspective, if you're a Sony fan or an Xbox fan, and that company has earned your dollar over the years, by all means, it's your money. Spend it however you want. Um, but I think a lot of times people are all making an argument for those sort of things without seeing those sort of things, out of just being honest to say, hey, they've earned my trust over the years, so therefore I'm buying it. And I think people are just kind of a little bit off base there. But no, I'm excited for what these consoles are going to mean for you guys, and I've always tried to prepare you guys for like, without giving away stuff and or totally speaking for other people in the industry, what to expect, so people are not building up this expectation of certain things and not getting things delivered to them. Like when people say all games are going to be 60, not going to happen. Will more games be 60? Sure. Yes. Will you get more physics and things like that? Yeah, sure. And these are the type of things that they're going to have to show and demonstrate with these new hardware for the general public to kind of you know frame it correctly for themselves. Um, but it's going to be improvement across the board, and I think everyone's, regardless of what type of stuff you like in gaming, I think there's going to be more for everybody, and regardless of whatever they favor. So, yeah, I don't know. That's my little bit of a tangent on that sort of stuff. It's new hardware. It's something to be excited about, and I look forward for no matter what platform you prefer, really enjoy.
No, I totally agree. Now, do you think the games will actually hit on consoles 120 frames? Will these
Depends on
new
the scale. Depends on the scale of the game, right? Like if the HDMI standard will allow that to happen, right?
Hmm.
So it's not really a restriction of the HDMI standard anymore. It's really the restriction the developer puts on themselves and what they prioritize. So a lot of times when you look at, say, a fixed piece of hardware, what developers are doing is they're looking at that and they say, okay, now we're making a game. They usually will start with what their targets are. Say, like in a shooter, they'll judge what how close the encounters are going to actually be. Right? Is a perfect example. Right? If you look at a Call of Duty, the encounters are on average a much different distance than say than a game like Halo. So you set that priority first. a lot of developers will do that, and they'll do some internal testing before they add a lot of graphics for just kind of the base bare bones concept of the framing of the game. And then sometimes a lot of times what they'll do is they'll figure out what their target frame rate is from there before they start investing you know millions of dollars into a product, right? Got to get that stuff figured out. You don't land on those things accidentally. So if a developer wants to hit 100 frames, I don't think it's an accident. They're going to do it because that's what they want. They feel like that's something that adds value to the game in regards to that. So I can see some developers using that and say, hey, yeah, we'll target 120, um, but you will get it at compromise in other ways. And I think some developers they'll target 30. I hate to tell you guys, it's going to happen, but it's going to be less than the previous generation. I think my conservative estimate, and I think it's pretty realistic, is a 15% going from 30 to 60, going from one to another. And the reason why I say that is so people don't get all bent out of shape and miss out on possibly a really good game experience because they're so painted themselves in a corner. A game has to be a very particular frame rate or a very particular fill rate on resolution or things along those lines. Those are just elements that make up the whole entire game. There's a lot of other things that go into it. So I think games are just a collaboration of a lot more than just those two basic elements in regards to that. So yeah, but everything's going to get better for sure.
Okay, so yeah, and especially now from what we're hearing from Ubisoft that the new Assassin's Creed is going to be a bigger open world, something that we have said we do not want. These worlds are a lot more bigger than what they're big enough. We don't need bigger. We don't need bigger, in my opinion. But hey, and so if they're going to make that game bigger, I'm pretty sure that that game will not be 60 frames per second. I'm sure that that game will be
On Halo?
30. No, on the new Assassin's Creed Ragnarok. Uh, because
Yeah, it
they
depends.
yeah.
It depends on what they prioritize, right?
Well, it's going to be four play. It's going to be four-player co-op, and it's also it's going to have the same type of play style as Odyssey. So yeah, and it also said that it's going to be an even bigger world. So therefore, I can't see. I mean, I'm not all big. I'm not all big when it comes to the tech on that end of it. But I'm pretty sure that it could probably get to 60 frames. But if they want it to be a visual masterpiece and things of that nature, I just don't see it being. And especially as something would be a launch title, I think that it would be 30 frames per second. I don't think it would be
I, well,
60.
I, well, I think frame rate interpolation will be something we see a little bit more going forward as
Hmm.
well. I thought you would see a little bit more on the X. It's honestly something you can do in Unreal right now, but there's not a lot of implementation of that. Basically, what it does is it fakes the in between frames and it creates a smoother experience. You're seeing that sort of support also being done on NVIDIA cards going forward. So more and more hardware that kind of supports that, more and more you're going to see that out there in gaming. And so what you'll see is sometimes like you'll see like Digital Foundry doesn't actually know the real frame rate. Their analog tools won't be able to tell the difference. And but the game's really 30 frames, but they build it with those interpolation type things, or they could do like a 60 frames per second game and do frame rate interpolation 120, or it gives them other options where they can do variable refresh rate and lock it at different frame rates instead of 30 and 60. They can do something between if they wanted to, if they feel like there's a difference as a developer, and do frame rate interpolation to take it push it past the 60 or right at 60, right? So they can do things like that that will improve gameplay and visual fidelity in regards to along those lines. But those are just additional tools in the toolkit, and there's not really a black and white answer to all development in all games out there. And I think a lot of times people think in very black and white ways, where we have a lot of resources we put in a game that are flexible, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And you just kind of have to figure out what your priorities are and how to adjust those things accordingly. So larger the scale of the game, more you have to play around with. So.
Okay. All right. So let me ask you guys. I'm gonna ask you this first, Don, and then I'll ask live. What is? Do you think that PlayStation, when they start to reveal uh, the PlayStation 5, are they going to be more game oriented, or will they want to try to, uh, or will they go more of the services aspect of it? Because we understand that they got this partnership with, well, I should partnership with Microsoft with the Azure servers, which means it's going to help out PlayStation Now. Um, VR, things like that. Where do you think that their focus will mostly be once they start revealing the PlayStation 5?
Depends on who they want to address, right? If they're
Mm-hmm.
addressing developers, things like services and things like that, or features you're selling developers on, or publishers, and mostly publishers. So yeah, I think there's a place they have to address it. Question is, I think I think what these platform providers have to understand is there's always a cause and effect to their announcement, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think Microsoft knows it probably the best out of all of them. Sometimes they introduce something and everyone finds a negative way to tear it apart, right? Time goes by and then it proves itself to be a very viable thing. I think what the advantage Sony has, and I don't think they're going to do the exact same way as Microsoft. They're going to do their own variant of it. Is
Mm-hmm.
probably the best way to describe it. But what I imagine them going forward, I don't know this stuff for a fact. This is speculating. I would imagine they are not going to take nearly as much of a hit because someone has already pioneered that path
Mm-hmm.
for services and streaming and things along those lines. And I think it's going to be a little bit easier pill for them to swallow. I mean, there's going to be some people that have egg on their face, but you know, move on. No big deal. Like, I'm not going to poke funny. I'm not going to be one of those people, and there's going to be a few small people that will move on. Just understand that you maybe misunderstood and enjoy the future because there is a lot more for you if you're just a hardware guy under a television. I don't think the future of a lot of this stuff really threatens what you're looking for in the games.
Okay. All right. What about you, live? I mean, what is your focus on the strategy that you think these consoles will do when they reveal them in their entirety, and what do you think that PlayStation 5's strategy will be on will they go heavy on the games to bring that red meat to the fan base that just talks about the exclusive only, or will they, like maybe like what Don's saying, is that they'll slowly try to get the fan base to start understanding that streaming is important or that services are very important. Which side do you think that they're going to go with this? Uh oh, live must have been gone.
Yeah, I didn't hear him fidget with his beard in a while, so I
Yeah,
apologize.
yeah, no, yeah, yeah. Well, he got them long dreads too, so that every time he moves, they just kind of bounce off
Oh,
of
is
his
that
mic.
is that what that noise was?
Yeah, it's not his beard,
I
it's
thought
his
he was.
dreads. He got like
I
these.
thought he was rubbing his beard against the mic. I was
No,
like,
no, no. He got these
I gotcha.
long dreads that goes all the way down
All
his
right.
back, man. So yeah, that's what that is with that fidgeting. Okay, so maybe he stepped away for something. Maybe he had to deal with his daughter. So all right, so all right. Well, I'll just give my. I think that they'll start off with the red meat for them, and then they'll gradually just start talking about how important it is, and kind of to soften the blow of what's to come. Because I've stressed this and said, look, that Sony now understands, and I think they've always understood. I just think that they wanted to capitalize off of the mistakes of what Microsoft did, and they got through it this generation, but they can't get through that same type of logic this gen. So they're going to slowly start letting them understand that, hey, services are important and it's not taken away from anything once games go over, get ported over to the PC or maybe to other devices and things of that nature. I also think that what they will do is hold on to the exclusives and won't do day and date like
Yeah, that's what I'm
Xbox
saying.
will. Yeah.
I think they'll do it their own way, and I think their vision may be different than Microsoft's vision on how to execute on that. But I don't think they're in total disagreement that that's part of the future, right? And they want to be part of it and not leave money on the table. That's an
Hmm.
opportunity for a customer, and that's why I look at this stuff as very organic. You know, and I don't like to kind of like say I said this way back in the past. I'm trying to stop from doing that, right?
Right.
But 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 there is, I iterate this, or I think Bill did, that I don't think streaming over everything. I don't ever will. And I think he kind of iterated that it's more of a complementary thing, and that's where I kind of always visioned it as well. Because when I started to think about customers, not every customer is the same. I have to think in that mindset, right? Not every customer thinks like me or plays like me. I can look at all the factual things about the thing, but you also have to look, okay, if I create something, who is this for? And you come at it from that perspective, and you go, some people don't care about the latency of television. Some people don't care about HD. Some people don't care about 4K. Like some people don't care if it's a PlayStation controller or an Xbox controller, the things that people argue about, right? And so for people that just don't care, this makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of customers like that. There's a lot of customers that like, I'd say used to play games and moved on and haven't been playing games for a while because they just don't want to bother investing in another console. But now you present something, hey, that cool game that everyone's been talking about, Uncharted or Halo or whatever it may be, and now it's immediately accessible on your phone right there. All you have to do is pay a monthly service. You have access to it, and then when you're done, right? And then hopefully, obviously, these companies want you to continue to be sucked into the ecosystem, either continue to pay for the service, buy a console, or buy the software. They don't care how you get there, but the care is that you're engaged with what they have to offer, right? And that's going to always translates to money, more of a solid business model.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I hear that you're back live.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I tried to hit you up and then we weren't hearing them dreads bouncing around on the mic, so I'd say he's gone.
Yeah.
No, but
My bad.
no. You good. You
I
good.
had to look at something.
All right. No. But uh, the question I was asking, what I asked Don is what I'm asking you is, what do you think that both consoles, what their strategy will be? But do you think with PlayStation, will they try to go heavy by feeding into their base by talking about exclusives first, or will they or will they implement the strategy of saying that like hey, services aren't bad, services are good for business. Where do you think that the strategy will lie between both, but more so with Sony and with the PlayStation 5?
I think so well, the funny thing is they're both in different situations, so you will see them both have different strategies. Sony has a larger fan base. They have a much more loyal fan base, and with that being said, you're gonna see them stay the course.
Hmm.
They're not gonna really do anything new drastically. Like the guy said, he said, yeah, you'll see games at PS now, but like what's the newest game? The Last of Us 2. That probably won't be until in PS now until maybe until that game basically don't sell no more. That's where you'll see it go into PS now. So it might be a year, it might be 2 years, and that doesn't mean it's gonna stay in there. Um, Now maybe it will eventually. Maybe they'll have a policy where like, all right, all our games that we put that are first party that we put in PS now will stay in PS now. Maybe. It definitely when you have it, it definitely makes PS Now worth having because right now, as much as it does have a lot of games in there, most of those games are really really old. Um, and once the novelty of just saying I can play it wears off because unless I mean they have some games they don't look that great, man. I mean, because think about it, the Xbox One games aren't the greatest looking, but at the same time, those games look better than what the PS2 games. They those games are like far superior as far as like visual qualities and graphics and stuff to what you we got from the PlayStation 2. Man, I can't play San Andreas. I've never beaten that game, and so they make a remake. I will not play that thing. It's just I can't, man. to me, it just visually I can't do it, man. Dude face look like a big old squared box head, man. I can't do it.
All right.
I mean, because when you play that game, you go back, you be like, man, I forgot that people used to have like they didn't have sneakers, they had like shoe boxes as feet.
Right.
They look
About
like
that.
they look like Cybertruck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
No,
just,
there's certain
so.
games. Yeah, there's certain games that I just can't go back and I can play. Especially when I was bringing up. I said this on GRG last night that I was excited when I seen that Twisted Metal Black was one of those games you could play on PlayStation 4. And I booted it up, and I'm like, man, I'm finna go all in. I'm finna beat this game right. I'm just gonna keep playing until I beat it again. And it was just unplayable. Just for the fact that it just looked so dated. And I was like,
Mhm.
wait a minute. Like, I mean, I know that the PlayStation 4 is capable of boosting up the graphics and the performance of the game, but it didn't have anything done from that. And
It's just
yeah,
the original
Yeah,
code. That's all
that's
yeah,
just
it
what
is.
they were. Yeah, that's what they
yeah.
were working with, and it's part. It's hey man, it is what it is. But continue what I was saying. Like I said, PlayStation will stay the course. It has no reason to change. I feel that they're gonna do what works until it don't work no more. So they might have something set in case things don't just continuing their norm doesn't work. I mean, because you just never know. Like that's the thing. Like people, they say, you hear people with the chatter, but like, well, this is how consoles has worked, and it's worked like this since the beginning, and it's always going to work, and you gotta stay traditional, and you say that now until the people, and you say that now until the people that are buying the consoles are no longer the people. I mean, that were buying the consoles when we were kids. Like, yeah, we're the old guard. We've been there from the beginning. We are the generation that have basically we from the time we were young, we've had a console.
Well, let
You know,
me
we
ask
were
you
the
this though, live.
yeah.
Do
Go
you
ahead.
feel like any of these changes threaten the way you like?
Let's say it again. But
Do you feel like any of the
okay,
changes that we're gaming's going through threatens the way you want to game?
for me, no. For me, not at all. But
But why is that though? So I'm trying to get to a point here, right? Like I think a lot of people are reacting to things that don't affect,
man,
and it won't affect. To be totally honest.
I mean, people. Listen, it's like you know what? It's almost like you're fighting somebody who's sitting there saying that, well, when I was a kid, I used to listen to cassette players, and now they got CDs. I don't even like CDs. I'm not even CDs anymore. Now they listen to everything on MP4s, and that's terrible. And then you got another guy talking about, well, what about vinyl? I used to love to listen to vinyl. And then the kid comes in, he's like, what the heck is this cassette player? They'd be like, wow, you don't know anything about music. You'd be like, it was, and then some older guy comes in talking about 8 tracks. It's like, bro, everything moves forward. But people over there talking about their fate, because wasn't it not too long ago people were talking about going back to cartridge? Well, they were saying PlayStation might do cartridges or something like that. I'm sitting there like, what?
Oh yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I heard that. That was what about a year and a half ago or something like that. Wasn't that before the Switch came out? Yeah, so that was about like
It,
2 years ago. Yeah.
it was like because they were like PlayStation had a leak that they might do cartridges. I'm sitting there like,
Oh
oh,
yeah, that was last year. Yeah, I did hear about
and then
that.
you're hearing
Yeah.
people's podcasts. Yeah, cartridges have great quality. I'm like, cartridges, cartridges. Is this where we're going? Are you serious?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think people are getting confused between solid state and an actual cartridge. But solid state doesn't have any moving parts. It's the chip, right?
Right.
So like, there's some similarity to cartridges, that's the thing is when people take these rumors, they take their limited understanding of it, they take it out of context, right? And then get into these conversations like that because they're usually motivated by their favoritism to a particular piece of a brand, right? And that that's where a lot of this kind of stems from, unfortunately. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, whatever. I mean, I just don't feel like any of this stuff threatens it, right? Like, um,
Oh,
I mean, look, what is it? People have been arguing for the last 4 years that their next console will not have a disk drive. And what's the first thing that the Xbox Series X shows?
A disk drive.
yeah, this time.
Exactly. So, like, they're not going to abandon something unless it's just beneficial across the board for everybody.
Yeah,
Does that
yeah.
make sense? I mean, they abandoned playing directly off the disc, but there's an advantage to not doing that, right? And so we had
Hmm.
to install all our games going into this generation. But you guys dealt with less loading times than you did previous generation. Regardless of all the ones people like threw a big stink about, like if you start comparing, like there's less loading times for the amount of information that's pushed through the system. You guys got bigger worlds. People always argue about that to the point where me and Mega are please stop making them so damn big.
Right.
So when they do abandon something, it's always beneficial, always across the board. It's never a complete trade-off to nothing. Like when we abandoned initial cartridges for CD, right? That
Mm.
happened because of sheer amount of information you can hold. You can hold that much information in a cartridge at that point in time. And so games got better across the board. And yes, you had one little small trade-off. You had load times, but
Yeah,
you had much better games, much better looking games
yeah,
because of it. So
Yeah. So.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So
But I
anything else with
mean,
that? Oh yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
well, what I was saying, yeah, but that was for the PlayStation. It's not going to change. They're going to stay with whatever they're going to do. Xbox, they they are going. Oh, doggone it! It's over here listening. Stop listening. Stop
live
listening.
live still has its
I,
connect on, guys.
yeah,
Sorry.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I still got it. Hey, my wife uses it, and I have the Connect and Alexa. So,
Oh yeah. So you in
man,
double
listen,
trouble. Yeah. You're in double
yeah,
trouble.
it goes great. Alexa works a lot better, so I usually talk to her. But anyway, um, yeah. So with Xbox, they already told us what we're going to see, and I actually what they were saying that we're going to see exclusives on both consoles until about 2021. I was surprised because I thought it was going to be longer than that. To be
Yeah, we'll
honest,
we'll, we'll, we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
part of the subject.
That's part
but
of the
okay,
topic we got. Yeah.
okay. So I won't dive into that much, but it's all about ecosystem with Xbox. It's all about the games. That's all that matters. More than anything, it's the games. Am I worried about the console? No, because they have Surface, and they don't. They number one, they had Windows way before they had Surface. They never had to bring out Surface at all. They didn't have to. They did it because they wanted to. They saw that it was an area that they potentially could jump into. To provide high end, you know, devices to their customers.
You know what's
And they
crazy
said, "Why?"
about the Surface lineup?
Yeah, what up?
It's increased the value of their third party as well. Basically they improved their designs because of the Surface being like a Halo product, right? And
Yeah,
so like this sort of stuff, like there's incentive. People don't see the incentive, but definitely there. And you got a good point because they
mhm.
didn't need to do Surface. They didn't even
Nope.
invest any of that money
Yeah.
into doing that.
If I'm not mistaken, the reason why they built all those dual screens is because they were working on the tech for it, but they felt like they have to be the ones to push it forward. So if they don't like if the others aren't building devices that work properly, they need to be the ones that do it. And yes, they'll be high end and expensive, but at least as the software will be built, and then cheaper versions of that could come along. But they always said that they had to spearhead that, similar to what Sony's doing with VR,
And
with
I want to
with
point
them
out
and
something on
yeah,
top of that. So people always give a lot of people, certainly with an Xbox, issues of saying, hey, they wanted to sell it off, pitch the brand. They almost did that with Surface as well.
yeah,
People forget that. Like they talked about why were we building hardware. That was a talk within Microsoft, but no one really talks about that in relationship to other things that Microsoft does, which is case particularly Xbox. So keep in mind, like the head of a company, it's their
Hmm.
job to question why the hell were we in this particular business. If they're not
Yeah.
asking that question, they don't have a complete understanding because they're not going to have an understanding of everything. They have to rely on other people on the board and things along those lines, give them even a better understanding of why we're involved in businesses.
Yeah. Because
And so that's just a normal question to ask, and I think a lot of times Xbox gets a lot of crap for that, but they don't hold the same energy towards other conversations they had with other departments within Xbox. In this case, a Surface, more or less to your point. So
yeah, I would say the last couple of years, maybe like the last 3, 4 years, we've been seeing Microsoft in a whole as their devices go, as they've kind of looked at it like we're not just building devices, we're building luxury devices. So these aren't low end device. Nothing that they build is going to be low end anymore. Everything's going to be top tier, and they'll have like a lower spec for whatever, like the S version of things and stuff like that. But everything's supposed to have kind of like this luxury feel about it, and that's what I've noticed ever since they started doing like the Surface Pro laptops, and then they obviously came out with the X and everything else. So that's the difference that I'm noticing. What they've been doing.
fair
Okay.
enough.
All right. Fair enough. All right. Um, cool. I mean, look, you guys pretty much touched on everything that I pretty much is thinking about as well. I just don't. I don't see. I think that PlayStation will stick to giving what the fans want, and then slowly integrate them over the period of however long
See,
the
see,
console
that's
will be.
the one thing I like. I normally, you asked me that same question probably in midsummer, I would agree with you.
Hmm.
But with the new leadership change, I'm getting impressions that's not exactly their approach.
Now you could be
Um,
right. You could be
it,
right.
and that's not a negative thing or anything like that. I get a different vibe,
Hmm.
and a little bit of a shakeup of what's going on there, and it could be for the better, or it could be worse. I'm not going to judge, but I do feel like it's a little bit different because I don't know. I feel like you see when you saw the let's just call it the PlayStation 5 logo announcement,
Yeah.
right? I can tell that it was different leadership. I don't think that sort of thing would have gone up in that sort of way. Um, Probably around mid July. Like I think the leadership would have had some sort of feedback and say, hey, we need to do a little bit better than this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or just not say anything at all until the right time, whatever it may be. So that's the impression I got from that, and I could be totally wrong. I'm open. I'm more than happy to openly admit I'm kind of curious. I'm watching to see what this leadership does do, because I'm kind of curious where all this. You know what I mean?
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, you know what? And we talked about this before about like just the difference between when companies got to go through a big turnover like that. It's not as easy or everything is going to be smooth sailing as we've seen with Xbox and also what we've kind of seen with Nintendo at one particular time. So it's I'm still excited for everything that's going to be shown. I just hate to see that there's going to be people that that will be so thoroughly disappointed to even when they want to tweet or make messages or videos saying that they're going to stop playing or trying to advise other gamers not to mess with those products because it doesn't fit their standard. Like I just think that that's completely that's just disgusting to me. I just think the people should just wait to see what they have to offer, and it's just like what you asked live. And I would agree with live. It's not going to change how I play my games. It's not going to change how anybody that listens to this podcast, however those people are going to play the game. It's never what if they decide to do day and date. That's still not going to affect you on what you want to do on buy on playing and buying your games and supporting the console. It just isn't. It's not going to affect Xbox gamers. It's not going to affect PlayStation gamers if they decide to go that route as well. I think that strategy is absolutely smart. Both companies should go all in on that because there are a huge market of there's PC gaming is a huge market, and there's a lot of money that's available to go back into these companies. And it does, and we know that PC gamers, some of them will buy consoles, but for the most part, they're not going anywhere. And console gamers, they're not going to go anywhere. Some might go over and might want to build a PC and go through that, but for the most
But
part,
but
console
the
gamers
beauty
are
is
console gamers.
you don't lose that gamer. Like that's what PlayStation guys and Xbox guys need, both fans need to understand. You're not losing your friend if they decide to move over,
Right.
right? It's just the same difference. For example, like me and Mega at one time had two different televisions. Guess what? We're still both able to play. He enjoyed his Sony at one time, and I joined my right. And and K Mega decided to buy a QLED on his own accord, right? By
Mm-hmm.
seeing it in person. And so that's just kind of like I like use that television example of perfect example where how gaming's going to be for the rest of the gamers, right? Like no matter where they go, they're going to be able to play with their friends for the most part, right? Like you'll see more cross-play between PC and some people are going to stream, right? Would you rather have someone that would never buy a particular console that you enjoy stream so you can play with your friend every once in a while that just uses to buy a console or not play with them at all? Like that's the question you got to ask. And the way I look at it is it's a net positive is people are going to play that normally wouldn't play.
Right.
I don't know what that number is, but it's going to be more. It's going to be easier to convince them to play with you, right? Because
Yeah.
it's easier entry for them. So I it is going to change, but it's going to change in a way that's I have a very positive outlook on. And it doesn't really threaten the things I like. I like low latency. I like hardware underneath my television. Even though I develop on a PC all the time, I love playing on my console, right? I love those things. None of those things are ever a threat, not even one bit. So I guess I want to just keep reinsuring that. I may have to repeat a bunch going leading into this generation and stuff like that, but I think it's an important message to keep drilling because I think the chicken little effect is wearing on a lot of games. Want to hear what's really going to happen, and
Well, the
I really
sky
think
is always falling.
yeah,
Yeah.
it seems like it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just it's not how I roll. Like I look at the positive and negatives of everything. It's got to look at all of it, and at the end of the day, is certain gamers are not gonna. They're just not. They're just gonna do what they prefer, and there's enough of those gamers out there to support those ways you like the game. So
Right. All right. Cool. Well, that's a good segue to get into our next topic, which is gamers' focus going into this generation. Now, it seems like everybody wants to keep some energy of something that from the previous generation and then bring it over and over to the next. And the only thing that I've been seeing from, well, I should say, I hope, I hope to God that a lot of the narratives and conversations that happened in the beginning of this gen do not spill over into this. I know that it will with some people, but I hope overall it just comes down to when we have more crossplay, uh, games, the whole exclusive talk, when all of these things, services, all of this stuff. I would hope that it would die down tremendously because mostly all these narratives that's been doing like what Live said, the sky is falling aspect of doom and gloom. I hope that it will subside and then we could get back into focus about what it always has been and what it should be about, and that is the gaming. So Live, I'm finna just go with you. What should be gamers' focus going into this gen? I mean, what is the main focus that they should that all gamers should be focused on, pretty much?
I would say just enjoying your games
Mm-hmm.
and stop with the narrative. You got too many people talking about games they don't play or don't care to play. It's like, why even waste your time, bro? Like, you have no interest in the game, but you done had like 3 podcasts on it. Like, why are you divulging so much energy to this? I mean that's my thing. I mean, just play what you want, But listen, man, I've seen some crazy stuff. You ain't seen cats go to websites and you know downvote user scores on games they don't even like, bro, or never even plan to play. They don't even make any sense to me. Hit up Metacritic. They made like 15 accounts so they could downvote a game. Like, it's just crazy, bro.
Yeah.
I don't. They need to reroute that energy to something else. Either play more games, or maybe you just got to find a new hobby. Because, bro, that's ridiculous.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. What about you, Don? Where are you at? What your gamer focus should be coming into next gen?
I think they should have an honest look at everything they liked about this current gen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then throw everything also on the table that you're hearing about what's going, and just literally look at it as a list of what things apply to you and right? And who's going to execute on those things best uh, going forward. Then once you've done your initial purchase, I don't think it's a constant justification of your purchase, right? Share your experience if you're having or if you're having a negative one, fine. Say it, get it off your back, and move on, right? Um, and keep in mind, just because you did that initial purchase doesn't mean you buy another console. These companies are in competition for your dollar, um, and you're going to spend your dollar what makes the most sense. No one else can dictate. I would say also, I don't think gamers should ever be ashamed of what games they play. I don't think you
Facts.
should ever have to apologize for that. I think that's ridiculous. It doesn't matter what the game is. I do not condone those sort of things that people do to others. It's just not okay. And so that's kind of my take on it. It's a little bit of a soapbox, but I have a feeling that like people are not taking a step back from everything. It's kind of looking at what are these companies offering, right? Where does this apply to me? Where does it not? Who offers the best as a collective, right? It's not just one thing. And that's one of those things. There are arguments in a lot of podcasts is oh, it was just this one thing. This is why they're not doing good, or this is why they're not. No, it's a collaboration. It's all the things, right? Not every gamer thinks the same. Not every gamer prioritizes the same. So, look at the stuff you prioritize, not what someone else does. And I would also say this too, and I've said this before, and I openly will say it again, is there will be a difference between the hardware platforms. For some people, it will be noticeable, and other people, it will not, right? And so the question is, when you look at you know, those two pieces of hardware, when you're going to be faced with next year, you just need to look and say, hey, do I notice a difference or not? Then you just put that in a little bucket list. If it knows a difference, cool, that's you. And that's something you're going to have to factor into your buying purchase, which is fine. And if you can't notice a difference, well, then maybe it's something that doesn't factor into buying purchase, right? And you go from there. It's going back to the fundamentals, right? And I don't know, this constant justification and forcing people to think the exact same way you are. I don't think that's healthy. I don't think it's healthy for gamers. I don't think it's healthy for sharing experiences. I just don't think that's a net positive.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It does not. But you know what? And there's something that Elite is saying that's in the chat, and it's unfortunate, but it's true. It's like this small community of haters. They're just so loud. I remember I made a video about 3 years ago, and I was explaining that very point. Um, don't let the loud minority dictate how you want to play games. And lo and behold, it's happened, and that's what's sad about it. So, um, but it is what it is, man. But yeah, no, I hope that gamers will have a different perspective and a different focus, um, and just go from there. I can hear an echo, so somebody's stuff is up. That ain't me this time. Okay, all right, cool. Let's get to the our biggest topic of the night, and then we have one more after that, and then we'll be getting out of here. But let's talk about this whole thing that's kind of been swirling around ever since it was announced from Matt Booty, basically talking about Xbox Series X games won't won't be out or available until 2021. and beyond. And it caused a storm. It caused an uproar from that loud minority of haters, and it also made some Xbox fans feel that insecurity, which they shouldn't, in my opinion. But nevertheless, it was one of the big talking points of the weekend, and it will continue until we find out more. But so I'm gonna go to you, Don. This whole narrative that came about when people are saying that games being put on that's kind of being spread around through different parts of hardware. It dumbs down the new hardware where it's just not capable of showing what it truly can do, and it just dumbs down the games, and the developers have to make games to for all of these other different consoles, which means that they won't have full focus on the new hardware, which means it holds it back. Is that theory true? And what is your thoughts about what Matt Booty said? And do you think that that's an effective strategy, or do you think that that's a mistake?
Well, I think people take these sort of things out of context. They're also a lot of their thought process is based on older generations, not where we're at. If you go back in time, there was a time that games didn't have polygons, right?
Hmm.
And now you go forward in time, they all do. Um, there's a point in time where diminishing return on 2D graphics was there, and we're getting close to that 3D. Everything is really scalable. It really is. And really what it comes right down to what the developer prioritize. Um, in how they want to organize their pipeline or their stack essentially of how they're developing it, how they want to have. One of the number one things that takes up resources simply. You ask what's the biggest thing that takes up resources given modern day AAA game? It is graphics. Guess what? Graphics is the scalable thing possible. Perfect example, right? Say you're a photographer. You want to take a photo with a digital camera at 10, or say your cell phone camera, right, at 1080p, with poor lighting, and then somehow you're going to be able to make it look gorgeous on a 4K HDR display. No, it's not possible, right? You have to start with the highest quality resource. So you have to make sure sometimes the resolution of that photo is higher than the display that you're starting at, right?
Hmm.
Have to do that with the best possible lighting, not grainy. Now you take that raw image, right? Guess what? You can scale that down to whatever you want, right? And it's going to look as best as it possibly can on each one of the displays, right? Based on whatever the display limitation. Games are no different than right now. We are making games with excess things that we don't need in. We don't need to put in all those little blades of grass. We don't need to have polygon counts as high as we do in current. So all that stuff is scalable. The other thing that people don't understand is the part of like somebody that does the graphic side of things, right? What they do, primarily my expertise. When you create models and things along those lines, I create things at the highest in quality, right? The highest tessellation possible, all that sort of stuff. But I also have my topology built in a way that lower and look really good as well, right? So across the basically the tessellation of that model, I am trying to optimize for these things. Better I optimize on the low end, more headroom I've created on a higher end product. That's just how that stuff works. And so a lot of people that take these things, what they're doing is there's something out of context. They're taking context from usually a much older way of producing previous generation. I would say prior to PlayStation 3, right?
Hey,
And
hold on, Don. Is it me, or is it that Don seems he's cutting in and out a little bit?
I don't know.
Not for me right now, but
Okay.
earlier it
Oh
did
yeah.
sound like that.
I
Okay.
do
Yeah.
apologize, I guess. I mean that's just
Okay. There
the
you go.
way it goes. And so and when you and then back to I guess Sam was in the chat. I know he's inspired to do similar work to me. Is yeah, it is about time, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if I create all the resources and stuff like that, you can have additional teams work on the lower end hardware. So the priority is always going to be getting it up and running. There's always going to be the higher end hardware. They're the ones that are going to get all the love and time in regards to that. And then it's the lower end hardware is always going to get the compromise. I mean, that's just how usually ends up being. That's how it's ended up. See, we already seen thousands and hundreds of examples of that. They're not building for near as many performance profiles. You're not guessing on your performance profiles. They know exactly what the hardware is, so they know what to expect with it. And then and on top of that, also they're familiar with these consoles from the S and the base model and the X for a long time, so they know their way around it. Does that make sense? And so it's something they do have to address. It may cost money to do all that stuff. If that makes any sense. But that's something for the publisher to figure out. It's something for these teams to communicate with the publisher if they're running into issues, if that's something they're demanding to release on. And some companies may suffer, but they'll pay the price and they'll get up to speed. It's not really a big deal, and I think a lot of it comes down to is the tools the particular platform providers provide that allows you to be able to do that sort of stuff. But textures are infinitely scalable. Polygon models infinitely scalable, um, and so much resource you can squeeze out of that. And this is be honest, our current consoles that we have right now, the most base level, have 8 gigabytes of RAM. I know some is set aside for OS, some is set aside for gaming, but it's still a way more RAM than the previous generation, and that was the biggest bottleneck. And it's still the honestly, I think the biggest bottleneck going forward. So
All right. Okay, so let me ask you one more question on this. Is it so? Okay, you pretty much just basically said that it the only issue that could be is the time restraints and really,
time and money.
yeah, time and money. But
I mean, you can have other like very specific examples, right? Let's
mhm,
say a game relies on some sort of physics where things collide with one another, right?
mhm,
Well, that's not something I don't. And then the game mechanics are 100% tied to that. I don't think that's something that will scale very well going into lesser systems in regards to that. But that's the only thing I see being an issue. Um,
okay,
it's little things like that. So there's going to be small edge case scenarios, but it really is not the majority. So
okay, all right, yeah, pretty much, what I thought. It's just more of part of just people just going left and trying to make
I,
something
I,
that it
I
shouldn't
think
be.
it's just something that challenges their knowledge.
Hmm.
And that's something that I think naturally people feel a little threatened by in regards to that. That's kind of my take on it. I could be wrong, but that's just the way they keep expressing themselves, and that's the impression they're giving. So
Yeah, no, okay, all right. Live. What about you? I mean, we talked about this a little bit last night, but do you actually think that the hardware is going to be set back? The newer hardware is going to be set back by putting these games in the on the X and the S.
No.
Okay, all right.
Uh, like Don said, I believe it's more so time thing. I think what
yeah,
the issue of putting games on multiple devices has nothing to do with the ability of the device. For goodness sake, we got The Witcher on the Switch. The Witcher. It's on the Switch. That thing, the Switch is weaker than the 360. Did the Switch hold back hold back the Xbox One X or the PC version? No. It has nothing to do with it. Whether or not they are willing to do it, that's a different story. Now, I'm not saying that there won't be things taken off. It would be like any person who's played on PC. You know that if your PC is not strong enough to run such and such version, you're gonna have the lowest textures, the lowest shaders, all et cetera, et cetera. But it doesn't mean that,
but
you
that's
know,
always compromised on the low hardware. It's not compromised on the high hardware.
exactly. Shoot, there's games that I have on PC, like the Watch Dogs 2. Man, Watch Dogs 2, when you have everything turned up, bro, I can't even play that junk in 4K. Everything turned up. It's ridiculous. It looks amazing, but I can't even get 30 a lock 30 frames on my 2080. It's just it's just too much, you know. But that game was also on. It sold way more on console, but on PC, it's not dumbed down to play on PC. If your PC strong enough to play it at 4K 60, then hey man, kudos to you. Maybe you got a dual 1080 Ti's or whatever it is. But
That's not all cracked up as I can tell you right now.
yeah, I mean, you
First-hand
like
experience on that one, not TIs, but two 2080s. It doesn't
yeah,
scale very well.
no, it doesn't. I like the thing is like it kind of has diminishing returns on. It's almost like you could spend a whole bunch of money, but the optimization it's just a lot of things you have
Just
to do
just
in order to get it
just most
balanced.
games, yeah, most
You
games
know,
just don't implement it very well and doesn't scale very well, and you get a lot of hardware just sitting there. In regards to that, so
yeah, but to be honest, I haven't seen a single game this generation that I said, man, this can't be played on last gen hardware. Not a single game. Now, as far as graphically, it won't look the same. Absolutely not. But bro, we got GTA 5. That's still one of the top selling games, one of the biggest games. That still could be played on freaking 360 if they wanted to, or Red Dead Redemption 2 if they wanted to. Would it look like crap? Absolutely. It would look terrible. But it would still run. I mean, your horse might half be there. Half the animals
He
might
said.
look crazy. I'm just saying, it would look ugly. It would bring a new definition to, but it would still run.
well,
It's just that. Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
well, the strangest thing is, like, I don't think people realize is there's a lot of stuff we put in games we just simply don't have to put in there, right? And we do it because
Mhm.
we can.
Mhm.
And because of that, there is a lot of flexibility of what's there. Does that make sense? And I still argue you haven't seen what our current consoles can. I'm talking about
Yeah.
base,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like, because we were all fixated. I mean, not all, but there was a big portion of the population that was fixated on pixel fill rate, and because of that, that took a priority. And
Mhm.
honestly, your games, and I'm just gonna maybe look sharper this generation than they would have if it went the different other direction, but they don't look as good as they could have.
Yeah.
And so because it's no longer tethered to that 1080p or all these things that people think are hard fast rules anymore, um, you can do a lot. There's a lot of flexibility there. Like, core mechanics are not the demanding thing, right? The core, it's the visuals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I really, really think that people are kind of focused on the wrong thing. One, this is one of my things. I don't think games necessarily always need to be so big. For one, I think they need to focus on the density and the depth of the game versus just focusing on how big the world is.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, if they did that, then I could be like, well, that can't. I can see how that can't be run on some older hardware. But we
But
already seen
that's
games that
but
are
but that can
wide.
be scaled too, right? Like, that's the thing. It's
Well,
like,
yeah,
yeah, you don't need so many jewelry boxes in a house, right?
yeah,
So that's something that, depending on your information, depending on how you built your game, you can have a hierarchy, and that bit of clutter that makes a more rich experience for a more powerful hardware can be removed,
yeah.
right?
Don't I would
So
say the only thing affects a game whether or not uh what type of game we get is based on the time in which we receive it. That's it.
yeah,
So
that's fair
instead
enough.
of a game launching in like November, we get it in May because they had to do it for multiple hardware. That's it. They're not dumbing down the game because the number one, the low end is not the target.
Yeah.
Who the
And
heck is going to target the PS4 or the Xbox One S as their main console when you have the higher end and
well,
PC to develop for?
well, some of these people's thought process is because those are the consoles that more people buy, is the lower end consoles, and that's what their thought process is. Where, oh man, they want to cater to the people that have the most consoles, and I agree with Don, I agree with you. That's just not the case. Everybody's going to want, because what eventually over time the premium console is going to be the low end console at some point in time. So the fans will
Yeah,
still get the opportunity to get those consoles. It's just that the early adopters will be the one that'll get the premium, and then everybody else will wait until it's in their price range. So it's still not going to, anything is going to be dumbed down. I, is what I said last night. People just got to look back just 2 years ago and see
mm,
um, Red Dead Redemption. That
yeah,
that that should be the, and then you can just go in to check out just what last year is Metro, the last Metro,
Exodus, yeah,
yeah, Metro Exodus. Those games look fantastic, and they look a lot more superior than what they do on any of the. They look better on the Pro than they do on the S. I mean on the PlayStation Slim or the regular PlayStation, and the same goes for how it looks on the X compared to the S and the Fat. So so that right there should just kill all those notions about that. And then if you just go and you look at games, the backwards compatible games, like when I had the S and I looked at those games on backwards compatible, they looked good, right? But even on a 4K television, they look good, but they still seemed like there was something missing. When you play most of especially those newer ones, and I talked about those Final Fantasy games on the X, the backwards compatibility, they look like they're almost remade. They look so good.
yeah,
So like that the whole thought process is completely bonkers to me. I just don't understand it.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, you buy devices to be able to still, like you buy a new computer, you don't expect exclusives for that computer. You hope that the software that you run on that computer runs better than it did on your old computer. That's the most you really want from it, and then better feature sets. But you don't go into, I'm gonna get this computer because it has exclusives. Who the heck would do that?
yeah, no,
They
it's
got
it.
exclusive Windows. What? No.
So it's just the options. It's crazy to me. I don't know. It's just kind of like what I'm leaving what Sam Walton is saying. He's basically saying that I'm just nervous about their approach. I can't wait to find out, because just like we were talking about earlier about their reveal, and Sony will basically pretty much do the same reveal. Like
No, but
this is me talking hypothetically, but I'm saying what will be your comment and your thoughts about that? If Sony comes out and do the same thing of what Xbox is doing, will you still have that energy? Like that just does it. I mean, it blows my mind a little bit where why we should be worried about multi-trillion-dollar companies or multi-billion-dollar companies. They're the ones that's sitting there making the money. They have the strategy. Both of these companies has been doing this for a very long time. Yes, with hiccups. Both of them had hiccups, and they've had their issues, but they're both still going strong. And gaming itself, console gaming especially, is doing fantastic. Even though when they were saying at the beginning of the generation that console gaming was going to start falling off because of PC gaming and mobile gaming, and that didn't happen. So it's I don't think there should be any concern. Just wait and see what these companies are going to do. It's good to talk and to speculate, but to say that you're concerned about what Xbox is going to do or what PlayStation is going to do is good podcast talk. But these people have been doing this and been in the business for a very long time, and I don't think that there's anything to be
I
to be worried
I
about.
don't, and I'm going to say this right now. I don't think either side's going to make a huge mistake at launch. I don't
No.
think, obviously Sony's had their blunders with the PS3, and they've I think learned and they've matured from it. And I think Xbox definitely has matured. You can see it this whole entire generation and every
Yes.
decision they make, right? Um, I don't think either one of these guys, as a platform provider, is going to make a major mistake. And I just don't see it. I just don't see it at all. And you know, And I think I think we're back to Sam's point. I saw him in a chat. I think he just says Xbox needs to knock it out of the park. Yeah, I think to control the mind share, that's
Right.
essential. But in order to be a viable platform in what they're doing, I don't think they need to do that. They just need to not piss off developers, make sure they're happy, right? So they get good content on their box, um, and make sure their hardware works as best as it possibly can, and make sure their tools give access to the so that way developers have access to everything that their box can do. I mean, because for me, like the way I look at consoles from a developer standpoint is, give me the biggest, most powerful piece of hardware, give me proper tools to make everything easy to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish, and get the hell out of my way. That's all I care about. And I just see both manufacturers doing this. And in some areas, I've already seen edges one way or the other still early on. So and I don't really share that sort of stuff because I know that stuff is going to change. But as I said before, I think that both these consoles will be able to trade punches, but they are different. And and but none of them are bad though. Like, look at what you guys are getting.
Yeah.
Next year. Like, how can you not be excited? I mean, I'm excited for someone buying a console that I don't buy, and vice versa. And it should be vice versa because you guys are going to get so much from it.
Right.
I keep trying to have perspective out there in regards to it, and it's not about, hey, look at me, my perspective's right or wrong. It's just it's a much broader approach to what you're seeing out there, and I just don't think the narrow dogmatic view that you're seeing a lot is really indicative of what you guys are going to be receiving. And I think you guys are going to be pleasantly surprised.
Right. And then lastly on this point, the one thing that I keep hearing as the comeback is, well, Xbox is not going to sell the most consoles, that should be their focus, is trying to have people to buy their consoles. And the head of Xbox himself has said, we're not worried about that. We're not worried about the sale of the console. We're giving you options to where because we want you to get involved into our services and into getting into software. They
Yeah,
want to
well,
try to, yeah.
the negative of that, right, that people keep pulling from that statement
Mm-hmm.
is just one of many ways you can take that statement.
Right.
You can take it from a also perspective. They're doing so well, they'll be fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
They also look at it is they look at the demographics, and they've had looked at it over the years, and they've come up with a strategy to what's going to keep gamers the most engaged with their platforms. And the key word is platforms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of how it is. And people are going to take things however they want, right? They want to take a quote. This is where I'm losing a little bit of patience. I think this is the reason why I don't podcast as nearly as much. But because I think when you lose patience with people, I think that's not a healthy thing for me to do. You know what I
Right.
mean? Just
Mm-hmm.
just me as a person and as a gamer and what I do in my profession. But you know, dive a little deeper. Like, don't just take one little statement and assume automatically the most negative thing possible, right? I mean, these companies, yes, they are there to make money, but they can make money doing other things like real estate or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So there's got to be something behind that that drives them to work in the industry, and so the intentions of most of these companies, and I can tell you, is the best, even though they may not come off that way at times. And so, yeah, obviously that's their job to express that in a productive way. But given the benefit of the doubt, look a little deeper into it, and you can be objective. That's fine. But just look at every perspective of it, and I think you'll be more happy going forward as a gamer, in general, and you'll be more productive, and you'll have more thoughtful insight when you're sharing that with other people. And that's the way I look at it, because I look at a lot of people losing their voice. They're just becoming this white noise of negativity that no one's really listening to, except for their loyal audience members, and the development community is just like, well, okay, these are just customers I can't help, right? Like, because no matter what I do, they try to find the negative in it. So.
Right. No, I totally agree. I totally agree. All right. Well, let's get to the last topic, and then we're gonna get out of here, and then I gotta get ready for next podcast here in about another 2 hours. Um, Now we've talked about this on GRG, but and I think I've talked about it. Well, I've talked about it on Next for sure. But Don, we haven't heard you give us your game. See, the biggest topic, the big topic was the game of the decade. But we're going to just stick with the game of the generation. You can give us your top 3 to 5 games that you've played that you enjoyed the most from this previous generation to sign us out for the next gen. What was your top 3 or 5?
Um, my top picks, and these are my picks, so you don't have to like them.
Mm-hmm.
Halo 5 was one of my favorite
Whoa,
Halo
whoa,
games.
whoa, 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 whoa! Don't do that. Don't do that,
Yeah,
because
it really was.
they're gonna get it. They're gonna get it. Hashtag save lock, baby.
And I'm a Halo fan. I like Gears 5, but I think I like Gears 4 a little bit better, even with the shortcomings. And those are my and I would say that pick any Forza. I think Forza Horizon 3. Those are my 3 top picks on the Xbox side.
Mm-hmm.
On the PlayStation side, believe it or not, is I would say Horizon Zero Dawn, and I would say Spider-Man. Uh,
Okay.
Ironically, I was getting sick and tired of open world games at the time, and my favorite games they've done were big open world games. So,
Yeah.
go figure. I love the fact that Horizon Zero Dawn just takes a different visual approach to a game,
Yeah.
to a
Beautiful
world,
game.
and that's a I look at that as an epitome of what a game should be. It should be a freedom of just doing something that you just couldn't do otherwise, right?
Yeah.
And it only comes from gaming, and it's rare. I think that's happened with Gears, that's happened with Halo over time, and I think Horizon Zero Dawn is one of those things that stands out to me in regards to that. Um, and I would say those are the games I'm most impressed with are always going to be exclusives typically, and it's going to be that bunch right there.
Okay. All right. Cool. Live. I know that you gave us the games of the decade, but what was your top 3 or top 5 of this generation?
Ooh, this generation.
No.
Witcher.
No. You
Uh,
also say no order either. You don't have to if you don't want to.
okay, yeah, The Witcher is definitely one of mine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think what else. Forza Horizon. It's hard for me to say 3 or 4. I like different things about both, but I probably would go with 3, a little bit over 4. Um, just probably because of the Hot Wheels DLC by itself.
That's fair
That joke
enough.
was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and let me see what else. I'm trying to think. What else was I really, really capping for? I mean, it's so many. I'm probably gonna forget one. Wait, am I doing Xbox and PlayStation like Don did, or
Yeah, 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 yeah. No,
okay?
Yeah,
or
no
just
borders
no.
here.
There's no borders.
Yeah,
Yeah, if they're all
just say
Xbox or if
what you
they're all
want.
PlayStation, whatever, it don't matter. All Switch, don't matter. Yeah, all your top 3 to 5.
Um, man, I probably say what's the name of the game? I just Detroit. I like that game, man.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit was one of my favorite games, even though yeah, it doesn't have much gameplay in it, but that story, man, that story was great.
Did it catch you
So
by surprise that you liked it so much?
yeah, yeah, it definitely did. I didn't think I was gonna like it like that because I don't like Until Dawn. I think they made that right.
Yeah,
Yep.
Am I
no, they
mistaken?
no, they didn't make that.
No,
No, the
Oh
people
no,
that
no,
made
no. That was
I'm
heavy.
getting
That was
confused. I'm
Heavy
sorry.
Rain. That was
yeah,
Heavy
yeah,
Rain
Yeah,
people.
yeah. That's Quantic Dream. They made Heavy Rain and the other one.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
like the Until Dawn.
they were made by the that something medallion that we got that you could play. Me and 100 was playing it. Me, you and Live was playing it. That something of Medan or whatever. We gotta finish that too.
Yeah,
Um,
I
yeah,
beat it.
it's a fun game.
It was okay. It
It
was
was fun.
okay.
Okay, yeah. It wasn't as good as Until Dawn for what I was playing, but yeah. But
No, not at all.
hmm
But yeah, man. Yeah, Detroit. That's my game. You know what? Spider Man wasn't bad either, man. Um, you know what?
hmm
It wasn't a perfect game, and I know some people say it's better than Batman. It's uh, it's probably better than the last Batman, Arkham Knight. because I wasn't a huge fan of Arkham Knight, but it's not better than Arkham City. Like the lore of that Batman game was better. Like um I don't know. I didn't really care about any of the enemies I faced in Spider-Man. But the gameplay was good. The only thing I think that they should improve is what Batman had is the use of gadgets while you're actually in combat. I didn't understand why you couldn't do any of that. It's like basically you use gadgets and then you can just fight, but you can't do it both at the same time, other than shoot webs. I was like, okay, give me all these tools and I can't use them. But all right, whatever.
Okay. All right. As for me, and I know the generation is not over, and we got some heavy hitters. I mean, Final Fantasy remake. Uh, uh,
Well, that's not
oh,
even over. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. You got The Last of Us 2. You got Ghost of Tsushima, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, and then you got that. Well, I can't think of that game that I'm thinking is going to be game of the year. Something Punk. Um, Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that might
yeah,
be there.
I think that might be the one. But for right now, definitely The Witcher, Halo 5, Quantum Break, God of War, and this is not in order. This is just me saying God of War, and then it's either between Detroit or it has to be between Horizon Zero Dawn. That those are just fantastic games, and I mean and just like an honorable mention, I've never really been into the Assassin's Creed, and Assassin's Creed Origin had me hooked, and then also Shadow of Mordor.
Oh yeah, Shadow of Mordor. Yeah.
Shadow of War. Shadow of War.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that one caught me off guard. I still wouldn't put in my top, but man, that was a good game.
Really good game. Really good
Yeah.
game. So, all right, man. Really good show. Hey, Don, we did it. We got through those topics and we went through it lickety split with a guest on top of
So
that. Man.
man, so are we good for a couple months now, or what's going on?
I mean, yeah, we good for a couple of months or whenever. I mean, I don't know. You
Or
was kind
what?
of eager for another one, and like I said, you might as well take advantage of it while I got this time off. So, might as well
Yeah, you
get
never
him in.
know on that. We don't plan this stuff. We just show up.
No,
So
yes,
it's just how that goes.
right. So anyway, thanks to our guests, Livewire. You just kind of popped in on us while we was in the chat. Wanted to just
Word.
talk, and we was just in the middle of just saying, "Hey, well, okay, well, let's do Devin the Gamer," and he was like, "Huh, what?" I'm like, "Well, hell, come on in and just do it with us." And so, man, thank you for coming on, man. Starting 2020 with Devin the Gamer and having our first guest in 2020. So, where can they find you at Livewire?
My channel Livewire Gaming, where I occasionally put up stuff I should do more, but I'll be busy sometimes. But I'll try to do better. I'll try to do better.
Okay, all right, cool, cool, no doubt. And Don, where can they find you at, man?
The best way to do is follow me on Twitter. Everything that I do is linked there. All my views, opinions. If I'm going to be on a show, I'll tweet it out there. That sort of thing. That's kind of the hub for everything. And definitely come check me out on Mixer. My link is on my Twitter profile. But basically, I stream every Wednesday, Friday, and sometimes Sunday. In regards to that, and yeah, just come check me out. And I put on some work in. These guys have seen some stuff behind the scenes, and now that I'm almost done with my Mixer channel, some work's gonna be put towards the YouTube channel. So the YouTube channel is coming back. I just don't know exactly what date or time. I just have other priorities right now. So
All right, cool, no doubt about it, no doubt about it. All right, that's for me, man. Yeah, make sure you check out the GRG podcast every Friday night, and also every Saturday. The next podcast. We come on my time, Central Time. It's 6 o'clock, but I think it's 7 Eastern. And yeah, that's really all I did. Now I did something with the with Salty Gamer. Uh, oh Lord Jesus, with Salty Gamer, and so go check out that episode, his latest podcast. I was on there. It was man, it was KL. It was Kid Smooth. It was in his group, and we had one of his panel members on the show last week, which was Centurion. Man, had a good time, and then on GRG this week we had the Dark Otter himself, Dark Ottoman. So it was fun, and when he was throwing jabs at 100, that was classic. It was great. So Anyway, man, check us out when we do the Dev and the Gamer yet again. And for now, I hope you enjoyed the show, and everybody have a good one. Peace.
Hey, Sleepy, we'll do that shirt. We'll
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, and that's right. We
we'll,
we
we'll figure
stream
it out.
now, so go ahead, go
Yeah,
ahead, go ahead.
yeah. There's some merchandise coming. Merchandise is coming. I promise. That's one of the
Yes,
things I'm working on before I go to my YouTube channel. So, um, that I'm hoping to have by the end of the month. We'll see.
yes, yes, and I hope you guys like the new look. We got our own identity. You know what I'm saying? So it's going there now. We got to just work on that intro that I've been saying that I'm going to go ahead and get done and finished. So we'll get that taken care of as well. So all right, everybody, have a good one. See you later. Peace.